What's up, guys? The topic of today's video today is bankroll management. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine and I was wondering what her overall poker bankroll was because of the different type of tournaments that she was entering. And she's a quite good tournament player, so I was really kind of thinking of the topic of bankroll management. So I have very simple rules that I like to follow, and we'll break it down into two parts, 1% and 2%. So 1% is for multi-table tournaments. If your bankroll is $20,000, I don't think you should be spending more than $200. If your bankroll is $100,000, I don't think you should be spending more than $1,000 per entry. So the reason for this is very simple. In multi-table tournaments, a lot of times you lose, and it sucks when you lose. So from personal experience, there was one day I made 3 final tables on the same day, which was amazing. But there was another day when I busted out of 18 tournaments in a row. So if you're going to play multi-table tournaments, you have to be able to withstand those downswings. And I was able to take the loss in the 18 tournaments in a row with no sweat because I was buying into tournaments that were far smaller than 1% of my overall bankroll. So I think it's perfectly okay if your bankroll is $20,000 to buy into tournaments that are far lower than $200 for the buy-in. Maybe $100 or maybe even $50 if you can find some tournaments like that online. So as far as cash games, I would say 2% is the loose guideline. It's not really a rule, but it's a loose guideline. So if your bankroll is $20,000, you might want to be buying into games for $300, $400, $500 in that range, approximately 2%. Now, if you buy into games that are too big, like let's say you buy into a game that's $1,000 buy-in, like a deep stack 2-5 or the 5-10 no limit game at Twin River Casino, you might be one of the nervous players. When you find a good opportunity to bluff, you might not pull the trigger. And when you have a really hard decision, like let's say someone makes a nice healthy bet into you, you might be thinking about the money instead of the situation. So for those reasons, I think staying around 2% is the sweet spot. So for my personal experience, one time or a few times, I tried to step up and take a shot at the bigger 25-50 PLO games, which was definitely my game of choice, and that was around 2015 at the Borgata, if anyone remembers the Frank games. So those were the games to be in, and that was the easiest game, although it was the biggest game, so it really took some balls to work up the courage to actually sit in the game. So for me personally, I'll tell you my situation. The minimum buy-in for those games was $5,000. So I had a deal with a friend of mine. He would stake me for 40% and I would use 60% of my own money. So I had 60% of my action. So if I did particularly well in those games, like if I was in the $15,000 range, I would get very, very nervous and I would end up leaving the game. And that was because I was risking too much of my overall bankroll. Similar situations happened when I entered slightly smaller games, but I had 100% of my action. If I bought into a game for maybe $2,500 and then I found myself sitting in the game with $10,000, honestly, I was afraid to lose that money back. And I made some excuse of why I had to leave the game, and I just picked up my chips and cashed out. So I think when you buy into a game for about 2% of your overall bankroll, you can play with a clear mind and make good decisions. But when you buy into a game with about 5% of your bankroll, then you start to be the nervous type of player. And I'm not speaking for everyone, because some people can handle it. I know some famous players like Daniel Negreanu said they just ignored bankroll management altogether. And guys like Doug Polk, they said they believed in their skill, so they took shots in bigger games than they were supposed to. But they've also taken much, much bigger downswings than most people want to take. So for those reasons, I like to stick to 1% of my bankroll for multi-table tournaments and 2% of my bankroll for cash games. Hope you got something from this video. If you like the video and you want me to make more of them, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing.